Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
Welcome to Unashamed, Unafraid. We're here with another Live Unashamed episode. Guys, how are you? We've got Chris and Josh. So we've had Josh on before.
So Josh hasn't shared his story yet.
Yeah.
We're going to get him on here. I believe in, when are we doing it?
Next month.
Next month. Well,
for
in May.
us. Yeah,
In May it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
So you guys will hear it sometime when we actually
probably
get
in
it released.
August.
But yeah. So we're just excited to have you here and join us, man, and have you jump in and share your heart with us, dude.
Yeah, just a point though, dude. I just want to just kind of say it how it is. Like you've been a brother to me, and like you've showed up for me. I feel like you're someone that I trust, and I just really admire you for the way that you are. So you just represent like the unashamed and unafraid aspect of recovery. So that's why we wanted to have you on again. We don't do this very often, but we're excited for this one.
That means a lot. That means a lot to me, Sam.
You're welcome, bro.
Thanks, dude.
So what are we talking about today, Josh?
We're talking about accountability today in recovery.
So how are you doing with that?
Well, I'm reporting the big things. And if I have a setback, I make sure to tell my sponsor, I make sure to tell my wife, I make sure to tell accountability partners, and make sure that I can get myself out of the shame. But the last time I had a setback in March, I was just kind of, after talking with everyone and thinking about how I could learn from the setback and how I can be better and avoid this happening again, I felt like God kind of stepped in and just said, you remember this moment when you were just scrolling through the reels and you saw this woman and it triggered you? And then you just kind of swept away to the next thing, but you never told anyone about that. And then the next time you saw it, you lingered a little bit longer. And then you justified not telling anyone because you didn't tell anyone the last time and you hadn't had a setback, but they just got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger until I found myself, back in the dirt, just realized that I needed to be better about, I think I heard somebody say on the podcast once, it's easier to report a trigger than it is to disclose a setback.
How is shame showing up in that process for you? Like when you feel, because I'm going to talk in just a minute about how that's showing up for me, but like when you feel this, like, hey, I'm starting to feel triggered. I know I need to reach out to someone. Maybe it's a small thing, but realistically, I know deep down it's probably not that small. I know where this is leading. Where does shame enter the picture and keep you from reaching out?
I think it's the other side of the spectrum for me, actually, maybe sometimes. So I feel like shame and pride are like, they kind of do the same thing. They take you away from the truth, right? The truth is in the middle. If you veer too far one way, you go to pride and you think you're better than you are. And if you go away from truth the other way, you think you're worse than you really are. And I think sometimes I just think I don't need to. I think I'm okay. I think everything's fine. It's not a setback, so we're good. Until it is a setback, and then we're not good. I think definitely that's how it starts for me, whereas shame, I think, creeps up as things kind of get a little bit bigger and get a little bit worse, and I avoid it until it's too big to avoid.
So Chris, I'm curious, I think it'd be helpful to kind of get your thoughts on, we talk about accountability, right? And a lot of times I frame it, and maybe you're struggling with this too, Josh, in like this, like have to, right? I have to do this, and then I feel ashamed when I don't. And I think it'd be helpful to get down to the root of what is accountability intended to help us do in recovery as a principle. Why is that a common principle in most recovery groups?
vulnerability, right? You cannot have accountability without vulnerability. If you listen to Brene Brown's, I want to say book, but it's not book because it's her talking, and it's called The Power of Vulnerability. But with that, she talks about there is no accountability without being vulnerable. And that's where we don't want to be accountable because we're afraid of being vulnerable. Because what does that do? If we're vulnerable, they're going to see us and they're going to see the real us. And so there's shame that comes in. And it's like, nope, don't be vulnerable. Right? And so I love the way she talks about accountability because she talks about it in a way, there's 3 parts, 3 ways to be accountable to something. One is authenticity. This is what I did. So in your case, it's like, oh, yeah, the first swipe you go by and you pass that chick that's on there and you just keep going. Great. I wouldn't report that, right? But when you start negotiating, and that's when you're going to it and being like, well, I'm going to go back to it, or I'm hoping that I'm going to keep scrolling so I can see if another one comes up. Then you start negotiating.
Calling me out. That's what you just did.
Right? And totally, right? And we need to do that as a brotherhood, right? Is to call each other out and be like, no, dude, that's that's straight up negotiating. You know exactly what you're doing in the moment and what you're doing. Take accountability of that because that's being you in your authentic self. You have to have authenticity. This is what I did. Second part is action. This is what I'm going to do to fix it. So like in my case, I look at things and I'm like, yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on all that kind of stuff all the time. I see that stuff and I just keep swiping because I don't go back to it. I'm like, that's not for me, right? Being accountable with it if I need to. I can talk to anybody about it. If I ever go to negotiating, the action is, for me, I don't negotiate with my addiction anymore. I just don't. So that's how I'm able to working through on how to fix it. Then the third part of it is amends. What amends do I need to make? Is it amends with myself? Is it amends with someone else? How am I going to make those amends? So authenticity, action, and amends. And dude, like, and so looking at that as what do I need to report? Well, you don't need to report that first thing because if you did that like all the freaking time,
right,
we couldn't drive down the freeway without calling our sponsor and being like, hey, dude, so I saw a chick on the billboard and this is what I thought. No, that's like crap, right? That we got to be able to live life. Right. And we want to be able to live life. So, but it's like, okay, at what point am I negotiating? That's when I can be accountable. Because especially if you know and recognize that you're negotiating, you're jumping into some of your rituals, which is part of your addiction cycle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That makes perfect sense.
Because then when you're in your rituals, it's like, I know where I'm going to go. Or when you're in your negotiating, so report the negotiating. Because then you're being accountable for that. Instead of just being accountable for acting out, you're now being accountable for your negotiations.
You know, that's an interesting concept because for most of my life, and you know, you're making me rethink this whole principle right now. Most of my life, I've been feeling like accountability is a tool that we use to like right the wrong once we've acted out. But what I'm hearing both of you guys say is that like this is a tool that we can use to increase intimacy and vulnerability and step into recovery before it even happens. This is a way that we escape shame, which is, I mean, that's just super new for me. Yeah. One of the reasons why I have a really, really hard time, like I have an accountability partner right now. He's my old sponsor and he's like, I mean, he's one of the most compassionate people that I know. It's not like I could ever tell him something and he's going to shame me for it. But I find myself just slowly when I'll go through bouts of like, okay, cool. I'm going to get back on the train. And I'm going to tell Dave every single time that I relapse, you know? And I find myself, you know, going through these cycles where I'm really accountable and then I'm really unaccountable. And it's this shame cycle where I feel like, I think it's just, I've misunderstood the point of all of this, which is to connect and open up and start a pattern in your life where you're talking about things and connecting with other people, with other men, with those who you can reach out to, rather than like I I mean, that's just the way I grew up. Every single time that I relapsed, I had to like go talk to my mom about it. And it was like the most shaming thing. I know she was going to be disappointed if I didn't go tell her. But then she was also disappointed if I did tell her.
Right.
You know, and it's so
So then you're
hard.
like, I'm not going to tell her.
And this is a
Then
very
you have
different.
a Pavlovian response to being
Yeah.
accountable, where you just
Yes.
you hate it. And
That's
you're afraid of
exactly
it.
what it is. So how does that show up for you? Like, what are you seeing as we're talking, Josh?
What just came to my mind while you were talking is like, don't just report the mess ups. Don't just report the triggers. Report the victories. Reach out to your buddies and tell them when you were triggered, but you didn't watch. Tell them when you talk about the times that you had victories.
So what does that look like for you?
Well, I just thought about it, so
Well, I think one way to look at it is if you look at my recovery story, when things really started to change for me is when I was accountable before I acted out.
yeah. Fighting the
Be-
battle before
Like
the monster
acting
is
before like calling and reaching out to somebody before I even acted out.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Because then I didn't act out.
Yeah, if you wait until the last minute when pornography has become this horrifying monster you can't beat, then you'll always lose. But if you can attack it when it's just small, that's cool.
I think there's also a myth that like at some point, if you heal enough, eventually the pull will just go away. Not when you've trained your brain to cope that way. There's an emotional coping element too, and that's where I struggle because I for a long time I've thought like, man, if I just do enough trauma therapy, it's gonna go away. One day I'll wake up and I won't feel the pull. And to an extent, you're further along in recovery than I am, Chris. So I'd love to hear your feedback on this if you have any. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening for me. Just that the space between stimulus and response is much bigger now. And I have more opportunity to reach out and connect and be accountable and rid myself of the shame of the secrecy and the spiral.
After you act out.
Before.
You're calling before.
I'm saying the space between stimulus and response for me is a lot longer. And so in between the time where I'm first feeling activated
And then actually
I actually
acting on
act
it,
out,
yeah.
there's a lot more space now.
Sweet.
And I'm a lot more
Yeah.
aware in that space, and I have opportunities to connect. And so that's where it's different for me. That's what I'm learning, I think.
I don't think that we have to report like every trigger or like a
It's just
temptation that comes
when you're
in.
negotiating.
Dude, we have temptation for all sorts of stuff.
Mhm. Even Christ was
Good
tempted.
hell. If we were reporting like all that, we never get out the freaking phone, right? But it's like, okay, what temptations do I need to report? And if you feel like it leads to your negotiation, if you know where it's taking you, because you're not stupid. You've been doing this for a long time. You know where it's going to take you. You know what I'm saying? We just may justify of, well, I can just go this far and it'll be okay because I'll be able to stop. And then all of a sudden we're acting out and it's like, what the hell? Why didn't I just stop? Because I said I could stop, and then I'm frustrated because I can't stop. You know? So it's just like we have temptations that come in, and it's what we do with them that matters. Just because we have temptations doesn't make us bad, because if that was the case, then Christ himself is bad, right? And so, but if we have those temptations that come in, what are we doing with it?
Yeah.
We're negotiating with it. We're, playing around with it. We're just like looking at it and being like, what do I want to do with you? Well, what I want to do with you is like not do this anymore. So I'm going to do something different. Because if you want to make changes in your life, you got to make changes in your life and you got to do something different.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite and least. Chris knows that's my favorite and the least favorite thing that he says. But it's so true. It's just such a struggle. It really is so hard. But when I'm honest with myself, that's the honest truth that's keeping me from being accountable right now. Is I know that if I know that if I reach out, that I have to make changes in my life.
Yeah.
Like I know if I take that first step to actually start connecting with people rather than spiraling out of control and then ending up in a relapse, that it will force me into changes that will be uncomfortable. And on the other side of that is something really awesome including connection. I mean, it's greener on the other side for sure. But
There's real fear behind it, though, because you've been using the same coping strategy for every stressor in your life, your entire life, and now you're going to just try to abandon that.
yeah,
That's scary.
so that's what's keeping me from stepping into accountability. Guys, we want to hear what your journey with accountability has been like. What is keeping you from stepping into accountability and connecting with others before the relapse happens so that you don't have to report afterwards and have a different conversation? I liked how you framed that, Josh. That's kind of a different way to think about it. Either way, there's connection, but really when we start to recover, what I'm learning for me is I think it's when you start to reach out before. So we want to hear from you guys. Tell us your thoughts. Reach out, Sam, Chris, at Unashamed, Unafraid. We love hearing from you guys. I haven't done this before, but I don't know. God's putting this on my heart right now. I'm going to commit that for the next 2 weeks, I'll just say that, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to connect with men when I start to negotiate. That's my commitment. So what are you committing to do? Reach out to us. We want to hear from you. Thanks for hopping on with us today, guys. We love sharing our thoughts. We love being vulnerable. We want to hear what you guys have to say with us. If this was helpful to you, if you got something from this, share it with someone else. Wherever you get your podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Find us on social media at Unashamed, Unafraid. And don't be afraid to hop on over to our website, unashamedunafraid.com. You can go click on our little donations bin and become an outsider. That'll give you access to the bonus content. I forgot the word.
I got you.
Well, Josh is an outsider, so he would know all about the bonus content. But we want to get you hooked up with that. So thanks for being on with us, guys. Thanks for stepping into being unashamed and unafraid. And until next time, continue to live unashamed.